Hey guys, Drifter here. Welcome to Black Ops 4 In Depth. In today's episode, we're going to be reviewing the Hades LMG, which is maybe not the best weapon in the game, but it's one of my personal favorites because in every single mode, the Hades is just very satisfying to use, and it's a little bit strange. We're going to talk about it in the VKM episode that we had the Titan and the Hades, so I thought the LMGs in Black Ops 4 were going to follow all these, Greek gods and mythos, but then we just have a VKM, which doesn't make sense. Shout out to Hades from Hercules, one of my favorite Disney characters. Let's talk about the damage on this weapon. Damage is 36 at all ranges, and it's 5 shots to kill. Unfortunately, that's quite a few shots to kill for light machine guns, and the base damage output is lower than that of several rifles. So the damage output on this weapon is not fantastic. Headshots, unfortunately, are only 10% bonus damage, so not really worth your time to go for there either. However, the Hades does have a really high rate of fire at 640 rounds per minute, which is the fastest among LMGs. And if you put rapid fire on it, it goes up to 720 RPM, which is way faster than any of the other LMGs, and is much more competitive and faster than several of the assault rifles and submachine guns in this game. So rapid fire really boosts your time to kill on this particular weapon. Overall though, surprisingly, even with the more shots to kill because it shoots so much faster, the Hades time to kill is similar to the Titan, and thus kind of fast overall, again, especially with rapid fire. However, the higher rate of fire also means that it's a very forgiving weapon, whereas the Titan or VKM might statistically outperform it if you never miss. If you do miss with those weapons, your follow-up shots are slow. It can be a really big pain. With the Hades, it shoots fast enough to where you can just spam everywhere and not worry about it, so I find it to be very easy to use. Unfortunately, the recoil on this weapon is moderate to high and not very predictable, therefore not good for long range. So just the pure objective recoil, how much it kicks up from center, is pretty bad in most ways. There's not a lot of measurability to it, and it doesn't seem to go to one side or another, and sometimes it kicks a lot and sometimes it kicks a little. I find it frustrating to use at long ranges. It's fantastic for close to medium range, you can really cheese people, but at longer ranges, which is where you would kind of want to use your LMGs, it's a miserable weapon. Speaking of miserable, the iron sights are as trash as I am at building in Fortnite. The iron sights are among the worst in the game. I have a super difficult time seeing enemies that aren't very close to me. I certainly can't use it at range. It's a little bit better if you put a suppressor on with the iron sights because you don't have to deal with the muzzle flash, but they are very tilty and frustrating to use, and I strongly recommend running some kind of optics or something because I promise you, you don't want to use sights that are as good as I am at building in Fortnite. And you're just going to need optics of some kind unless you run the amazing Crossbar Operator mod attachment, which turns this into Call of Duty Ghosts Chainsaw and makes it a fantastic, fun weapon. I can't recommend this Operator mod enough. It's one of the most fun Operator mods in the entire game. You slap the crossbar on, you can no longer aim down sights at all. However, when you hit the aim down sights button, it zooms in a little bit and tightens up your hip fire the exact same way of Call of Duty Ghosts Chainsaw LMG, which maybe wasn't great for competitive, but man, it was insanely fun to run in public matches. And I think this one is even better than the Ghost Chainsaw because the crossbar also adds greatly increased strafe speed when you aim down sights, and when aim down sights when firing, there doesn't appear to be a firing penalty. LMGs are low mobility weapons in Black Ops 4. They were low mobility weapons in pretty much every Call of Duty game, so that's not a big surprise. And when you shoot these weapons and try and strafe while aim down sights at the same time, you move so slow you might as well be standing still. This is a new punishment they put in to keep people from abusing the stock and several perks. However, with the crossbar, you can shoot and strafe and move really fast. Your maneuverability is just completely off the charts. It's more like stock 2 maneuverability. So that is an amazing thing. You can aim down sights, and the crosshairs for the hip fire get tight enough to where it's almost as good as ADS. You can hit people at long range, no issues. You don't get the auto-aim lock-on, which is a little bit harder to aim with on console, but super easy on PC. And you can strafe and peek corners super fast, and it's just an operator mod that I love, and I think it's clearly the best way to use this weapon. However, I will say, the base hip fire is very good too, and by that I mean obviously it shoots fast, but it also has a tighter hip fire than other LMGs, And you can put on Laser Sight 1 or Laser Sight 2. Laser Sight 1 makes it workable. Laser Sight 2 is almost as good as the Crossbar. Now, I typically wouldn't run that because by the time I'm done putting on my wildcards for the extra attachments and those slots themselves, it's using just as many points. But Laser Sight 2 is super strong, and it allows you to, if you want to, aim down sights and shoot people normally with your scope, and then pop right back out and just hip fire hose them with the laser sight very, very effectively. You can tell that the entire design around this weapon was, of course, hipfire. Now, if you want to be bananas, you can put on the Crossbar and then Laser Sight 1 and 2, but then it's kind of strange because you don't really get as much benefit from aiming down sights and you just hipfire only, which is goofy. I don't think that's the best way to run it, but I have done it. It's kind of funny. Uniquely, Hades is the only LMG that can equip a suppressor, but personally, I don't like it. I don't run LMGs when I want to use a suppressor, and the suppressor does have some kind of impact on damage. I think it makes it a 6-shot kill weapon. I had a miserable time using that. The only way that I found it effective with the suppressor is also with the Crossbar, because you do have a tendency to miss more with the Crossbar, so getting a couple of shots in before the enemy can kind of pin you down is a very valuable thing. Like the other light machine guns in Black Ops 4, the Hades does have very high wall penetration factors. The base damage is not as great as the others, so the damage on the other side of the wall won't be as great as the Titan or the VKM, but the mathematical penetration factor reduction isn't bad, and you can put FMJ1 on it as well. You can't run FMJ2 on this weapon, but you can run FMJ1, wallbang a little better, do a little better against streaks, and bust armor if you want to. I used FMJ for most of the gameplay in this in-depth episode because this year I am just an FMJ addict. That being said, after experimenting with taking it off, I don't think it's very necessary. This weapon does enough damage to where it's only going to save you maybe one bullet against armored enemies, so I don't think that FMJ is the best attachment for the Hades, and I will let you know the Hades is miserable for killing score streaks because the base damage is so low. Even with FMJ, it's really not worth it. When it comes into some handling statistics, aim down sights time is 350 milliseconds, which is similar, if not slightly slower than rifles. You can't boost that with quick draw, but the weapon isn't really designed around ADS. It does reload really fast for a light machine gun at 3 seconds flat. If you run the hybrid mags attachment on this particular weapon, you get just under 2 seconds, which is a really, really fast reload for light machine guns, and it's especially fast given how big your magazine size is. The base magazine is 65, which I think is big enough for an LMG, and the hybrid mags will take it up to 85, which is just a very nice big round. But you get more rounds in your mag, and you can reload faster, so there's nothing wrong with that attachment at all, and on the Hades, it's one of my absolute favorite ones. Because the Hades is kind of a spam weapon, it's kind of a spray weapon, it's not a very high accuracy toy. When you run it with the Crossbar or the laser sight, you're kind of spamming bullets everywhere. It's going to take like 10 or 15 bullets at minimum to kill somebody because you're going to be shooting all over the map. That's if you're conservative with it, not if you're like me and you just want to light up half of Nuketown, you know. So having the ability to reload quickly is insanely valuable, and just having more bullets to shoot before you have to reload is also very, very valuable. I utterly love this weapon with the Crossbar or Laser Sight 2, so those are the attachments that I'm going to be recommending, and I think if you run those attachments in some configuration, it is a good weapon, but the Hades is kind of bad to use like a normal weapon. If you want to really be normal with it and use your aim down sights and use your red dot sights and kind of traditional Call of Duty rifle LMG gameplay, I don't think it's a very good fit for that. Now, I've got two classes, and we're going to do these kind of like Drifter's Hipster Sandwich Shop again. We're going to start off with class number 1, which is the Crossbar with extra cheese. I recommend the Crossbar, rapid fire to put way more lead downstream and to increase your lethality, and of course hybrid mags so you can spray more and reload faster. This is the class you run when you don't want to go to heaven, when you just want to strafe around and hip fire people into the ground and deal more damage than they can reasonably keep up with, especially given your speed, and it's super effective. If you want to go a little bit more traditional, but still with some cheese, you can run Laser Sight 1 and 2, hybrid mags, of course, and some kind of optics. This gives you a more traditional LMG class that you can aim down sights with and, you know, use your red dots and whatever. But with Laser Sight 2, your up-close hipfire accuracy is going to be fantastic, and there's not going to be much penalty to it either. So when people come up saying, oh, this guy's got an LMG, I'm going to face check him with my SMG, they'll still lose because your hipfire accuracy is fantastic. Moving into the end of the episode, I want to talk about Blackout, and I don't have a lot of tiles on this part of the episode, but I do want to talk for a little bit here. The Hades might be my favorite LMG to use in Blackout, but to be perfectly honest with you, I can't pin down why. In Blackout, I would say, well, LMGs could have better ballistics. Well, it's 5.56 ammo. They don't. LMGs have high upfront damage. Well, this one really doesn't. LMGs shoot the fastest. Well, this one really kind of doesn't. LMGs have less kick. No, that's less true in Blackout than other modes. However, that being said, I get a lot of good gameplay with the Hades in Blackout. For me in Blackout, the Hades is a really fun gun to use, and it is just very effective at killing people, as you see very well from the gameplay right here. The only reason I can think that it is so good is probably the large magazine and the high rate of fire, especially if you put on some sort of magazine enhancement. Having a huge mag and being able to shoot really fast for a long period of time without reloading is very beneficial. Now, I typically pick this weapon up with in its operator mod form. I don't pick up the base Hades as much and try and kit it out, but when I do use it, I always manage to kill people. However, I do so as a close quarters combat weapon and sometimes as a medium range weapon. It still kicks way too much in Blackout to be used for long range. Even though you'd probably see me get a few long range kills here, I'm doing it one shot at a time or two. I could do that with almost any weapon if you're just shooting a couple of shots at a time. It works really well up close. You would think SMGs or shotguns are just like your rifle gameplay, but I've had fantastic performance with the Hades as my backup weapon in Blackout, and that's how I would recommend it. I would not recommend this as your primary damaged long-range weapon, but if you want a really powerful backup weapon, the Hades is fantastic for that. Guys, that is all for this episode of In Depth. I hope that you enjoyed it. I hope you learned something useful. If you did, don't forget to like, favorite, and subscribe. Drifter out.